Oh, we've got Hong Kong, we've got New York. Well, I think we're good to carry on. Yep. Right. Good morning, everybody from Redbourn. Good morning, world. My name's Symon, fresh from a lovely week in Cornwall. Had a fantastic time down there, despite the rather inclement weather most of the time. But those of you that know Cornwall will know that it's a really wonderful place to be, whatever the weather. I hope everyone enjoys it today. The Active Redbourn team will hope you have a lovely time today. The usual brief housekeeping message very quickly. People joining are automatically muted with their video turned off. And if you want to preserve your anonymity, and I've finally learned how to say it, you can change your name in Zoom. You can use the chat function to send messages. Occasionally we do get some chat, which is very, very exciting, especially if it comes from New York. So please, New Yorkers, send us your chat, or Harpenden, either of those exciting, exotic places. This is now being live streamed to the whole world, as we know. And if I've forgotten anything, my producer and IT director will now say something. So producer and IT director, are we good to continue?
You're fine.
Fantastic, we're fine. Okay, world, we're now logging into Harpenden and the wonderful Sarah Brindley, who's going to tell us all about stuff relating to health. So good morning, the wonderful Sarah.
Good morning to you all. Lovely to be with you again on this what looks like another gorgeous sunny day to add to the amazing weekend we've just had. So pleasure to be here. This is just going to be a quick update on what's happening with the vaccines. As you know, each of the 3 surgeries support the vaccination programme on a weekly basis with our GPs, nurses, practice managers, paramedics, admin, support staff, and our PCN pharmacists, which are taken out to be there vaccinating or managing at each clinic. On top of that, the surgery staff, we have obviously our volunteers who have and are still amazing, and we're so very grateful for each and everyone's time, their boundless energy, hard work, and most of all, their laughter and smiles. And I know you always think smiles when you've got masks on, but you might not be able to see the smiles behind the mask, but from the eyes, you can see they're there. And it's been an incredible team collaboration. So the big news is for us to date is so far at the Harpenden Public Halls, we've vaccinated 28,380 patients now. We had another walk-in clinic last Friday morning. Wasn't as busy as our previous walk-in the week before, but still we ended up vaccinating another 359 patients on a walk-in clinic, which is, is great. We even had a duck come by, but we did feel we had to turn it away as we didn't think his age quite fitted the bill. And also
Sarah, have you had any pushback from the duck community in Harpenden on that one? Or?
Well, no, but thankfully we haven't heard any more from the duck community. You can see a picture of the duck concerned. We did ask for its because of course the data protection, but he did give us the okay to photograph him, and I believe it it might quack you up just seeing that picture.
This is getting better. Yeah,
it's getting better, isn't it? It's awful. These are the jokes. We are extremely busy with the clinics, not just in practice, but also while we're working in practice, we're obviously doing the clinics at the same time. So we are spread to do all of this. And June is looking to be probably the busiest month we've done to date, as the government, I'm sure you're aware, ramping up the delivery of the vaccine and the numbers we have to get jabbed. So we're currently vaccinating all those due their second doses of cohorts 1 to 9. AstraZeneca's seconds, they can have theirs from 8 weeks. So again, get yourself booked if you're at 8 weeks with AstraZeneca. And we're giving the first doses to all those aged 30 and above. And all of those, the 30 and above can book on the National Booking Service. So you can come to us, and the same applies to our St Albans neighbours. So if you're registered as St Albans practice, you could book on the National Booking Service with Batchwood or ourselves, or wherever's convenient. I think Batchwood are closing possibly July, but I don't want to say that, and Liz will update you anyway next week. So it's still there, still going strong at the moment. And everything pretty much follows suit. Whatever you're doing, we're probably doing in that sense in Harpen, and they'll be doing it in St Albans.
Yeah.
But keep a look on the Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You don't even have to have accounts, by the way. You can just literally go onto the practice website, click on whatever you fancy looking at, Twitter, Facebook, and you can read the information there. You just can't comment or do anything without an account, but you can at least read everything, which is good to know. But biggest of all, I just want to once again thank all our patients for your understanding and your support and kindness, because it is much appreciated. It's still tough times, but it feels like it feels a better outlook, doesn't it, at the moment? And seeing the news with 0 patients dying of COVID and numbers like that,
isn't it? And I think that's the first time in 10 months or something, Sarah, something like that, which is extraordinarily good news.
It is, and it sort of proves the point where the vaccines have come into their own, and what is saving our United Kingdom at the moment. So I can only say to those, if you haven't had the vaccine, please get it done. It looks at the moment like there might be boosters for possibly for the over 50s for going into the winter. We haven't had any information on this yet. It's just what is hearsay, but I'm hoping they'll allow us to do it at the same time as the flu jabs. So over 50s can get their flus again this year. But pharmacies are going to be doing loads of the over 50s. So there'll be lots of options where you can get your flu jab this year, which is good. And I'm hoping that they'll allow us to. It'd be good if we could still do it at the Harpenden halls. I know there's talk about they're demolishing not just talk, they are going to demolish the halls, but we're hoping the county council will keep them open long enough for us to get through the flu clinic and perhaps the boosters. That would be really great if they could do that. So, but that's it from me this week.
So can I ask you a couple of questions?
You absolutely can, every time, of course.
Just very quickly on the boosters thing, which I read something about it the other day. Are you saying that there is a potential that a bit like with flu, that every year the whole population, or the whole elderly population, shall we say, will get a vaccine boost? Is that the thinking behind that?
There is thinking behind that, but we're also I don't know whether you've read because remember we hear a lot of stuff through the news before we get told directly.
Yeah.
But there has also been talk about the fact that these amazing vaccines that we've had they're now doing more and more research, and they may actually look after us for a heck of a lot longer than they thought. So we might not have to have one. Wow. It's whether they're worried about their potentially with the very elderly, right, and the very vulnerable, to give them a booster to make sure that they don't end up in hospital. But again, watch this space. I will keep you posted as soon as I hear anything. So as soon as I know that there will be, we haven't heard a thing through the practice. It's only through what we're reading in journals, etc., that they could well do a booster. But there's also been talk about how amazing these vaccines are, so they may not even need one. They won't do one if they don't need one. Sure. But if they do it's like anything, it's extra protection, isn't it? So.
Yeah. Okay, Sarah, thank you for that. The second question, which is a bit of a difficult one, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but just to talk about the different variants that are coming out. Obviously, I know we now refer to them with a string of letters and numbers rather than the Indian, which I can't remember what the string is. But have you any thoughts on the effectiveness of the vaccines with the new variants, or is there any what's the sort of medical view on that, if I can put you on the spot?
Well, again, if you think about it, we've already had lots and lots of people coming in from India for quite some time. There was they didn't put any stops, did they? the only bit I don't know is Bolton, particularly, of course, had huge numbers of the Indian variant. Now, how many they had vaccinated in their society, I don't know. The only thing I've read is that the vaccines are extremely effective, and it may well be if you did get the Indian variant, you would maybe just slightly poorly rather than end up being hospitalized. So the vaccines do make a big impact appears to make an impact on all the variants so far to date. So but it's, we still can't take our eye off the ball.
Sure. We
have to follow caution. It is why, when you think, oh, it's still over the top that I'm having to wash my hands and do this, do that. No, they still don't know enough to know how effective it is long term. As I say, regarding boosters, whether it's a different variant, there's going to probably be a variant of a variant of a variant.
Yeah.
I mean, but at the moment, the picture's looking good. That if you remain cautious, you keep washing your hands, you wear masks where possible, and have your 2 vaccines, that'll put you in really good stead.
Super, Sarah, thank you very much. That's a perfect, wonderful update, as always, from the wonderful Sarah, from the wonderful Redbourn, from the wonderful Harpenden, I mean. So we can now let you go if you want to go. You're welcome to stay on for the rest of it.
Well, unfortunately, I've got another meeting, as always, so I've got a new person starting today, new receptionist. So
how exciting.
So I'm going to do her induction next. So
do say hello to her first. Say that
I certainly will.
New York says hello.
Thank you, New York. Lovely.
Thank you, Sarah. We'll see you
everyone.
soon.
Take care.
Thank you for that wonderful update. Thank you. Bye-bye. Now, everybody, from this is what's now Harpenden have gone from one wonderful person to another. I noticed that the wonderful Reverend Stuart Dyer is with us. Good morning, Stuart.
Good morning, Simon. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful. Yes, that's very nice of you. Well, it's wonderful to be with you, Simon. Wonderful you as well.
Thank you. Now, I got an out of office. I sent you an email, and I thought you were going to be in a tent today, Stuart. It looks like a very well-equipped tent you're in.
What can I say? When you go camping, you've got to take everything with you, haven't you?
Very good.
Literally. No, that's me not changing my out of office. We got back last night, so for those of you who remember Thunderbirds, it's kind of the pod thing. So everything came out of the back of the car into the correct place, back in its pod. So we were very, very efficient getting back in. So, but the thing I didn't do is change my out of office message. But you've just reminded me to do that. So thank you.
I was just saying your camping skills are extremely good if you are still in a tent. I was going to say so. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us, Stuart. I've got a couple of questions for you, if I may, but particularly based on what you wrote in the recent comment round. But I just wonder whether, before I do that, whether you just got any thoughts for us generally, or anything you particularly wanted to say.
I mean, I was just reflecting as I was with camping. We go camping with a group of friends who we've known for years and years and years, and of course, like all of us, that's all been interrupted over the past couple of years with COVID. So we've had to try and have virtual camps over Zoom, which didn't really work out because, but we got to talk anyway and catch up. And so it was just lovely this weekend to be away together. And it was just that thing, of doing all the ordinary things together that we do when we go camping as a group, which is to divvy up who's going to go and do the washing up and who's cooking the breakfast. We have a cooked breakfast, including pancakes and things, who's going to light the barbecue, who's going to do this, and all just pitching in and doing that stuff together. And the wonderful thing is, of course, that we know each other so well now over the years that everyone's quite happy if you want to just sit and read, or you want to, go for a walk or whatever. It all sort of just seems to happen organically, which is rather lovely. But so it was lovely to be with them. But I was thinking, there's a bit in John's Gospel where it's one of those translation things that it talks about God coming to us and dwelling amongst us in Jesus Christ. And I'm always reminded whenever I go camping that the word in Greek is actually that God pitches his tent among us. And it is, I mean, obviously in the time to pitch your tent was a permanent thing rather than a temporary thing like ours is. But it was just that I always get that sense of, isn't that a lovely a lovely picture of you know, Jesus coming and helping with the washing up and laying his claim to his club biscuit at the end of the, you know, the packed lunch, etc., and just mucking in and getting stuck in with all those things. So I think that's one thing I'd like to share, that's very much, I hope, been many of our experiences, that even though COVID's been really difficult and we've had a whole range of experiences, that sense that God is with us through all those things. He's pitched his tent amongst us in all the difficulty, in all the sort of, as I say, the community stuff where we've struggled to make things work and work together. God's there with us with all those things. So that camping analogy always reminds me of that. Yeah, so that's me. That's my message, really, that God is with us in all the washing up and at every moment, in all those lovely fun things and the not so fun things as well, such as emptying the toilets and all that.
Thank you, Stuart. So it's nice to think that God's with us when we're doing the washing up. I'll remember that later.
Absolutely, yes.
Now you wrote a really interesting piece, I thought, in the latest Common Round, and I just wondered if you wouldn't mind just talking to us a little bit about the 4 R's for those of our listeners that maybe haven't read it. I thought it was a really, really good and interesting piece. And
oh, well, thank you. Yeah, by all means, yes. I mean, I've been obviously, like lots of us, coming out of lockdown, thinking, how do we go forward from this? And I just wanted to sort of address what are the things I think we need to do. And I think I'd sort of couch it all in one way to sort of say, to go gently as we come out. And I would humbly say this to all of us, to not just get back on the treadmill and go blaring out back into what we were doing before. And I know many people have already sort of made resolutions to take things slowly and let things settle. So one of the key things I think for us in the community must be to reconnect, allow ourselves time to reconnect with one another. I'm very conscious that, you know, there are many people that I haven't caught up with properly. I'm conscious there are many stories and experiences that maybe people haven't had a chance to share with others, even, you know, beyond their families. So allow time for those things to happen, to sort of meet up with people, obviously restrictions allowing, to reconnect with one another. So we as a church are going to be planning some things like picnics and barbecues, and hopefully some other sort of ways that we can just, you know, informally get back together and make sure we put that time in to just chat and catch up and see how things are. We also wanted to sort of think about reaching out to others, because we're conscious that, you know, again, the COVID has highlighted that many people have many different needs, which is what you're doing greatly. I mean, this is a prime example of reach, isn't it? Using the technology and the new things we've got to sort of make sure that we are connecting with one another and reaching out to those in need. So from my point of view, it means that, you know, I'm definitely going to be carrying on with some of the online stuff that we're doing, because that's especially valuable, like your show here, for those who aren't able to get out and about or access things in other ways. Yeah, and then we're also planning at the moment, and I'll let you know when we have details of that, but the Remember was another key part that I think it was dear Reverend Will who we were having a chat about it, and he sort of said, you know, people have lost all kinds of things. It's not just loved ones, and that is obviously sadly true for many of us, but people have lost livelihoods and, you know, friendships, and work has had to change, and routines. So there is a tremendous sense of loss, I think, that many of us would want to recognise. So I know between us and St Mary's will be doing likewise, I'm sure. We're going to be holding a remembrance service at some point in the autumn, which we tend to do one for around remembrance time anyway, but I think we're going to have an extra one, which is just really for sort of COVID. The COVID situation, acknowledging, so it won't necessarily be around people who've lost loved ones, but a more general sense of, you know, just recognizing that things have been lost and have changed. And I think it's good for us to mark those occasions rather than just sort of push them away. So watch out for news of that. We'll be doing something for that. That'll be something that really for the whole community, not just for the folk at Redbourn Methodist Church. So yeah, so there's some things going on there. And lastly, changed the way we do things. So as I'm sure many of you remember, traditionally we would have 4 services in a month, once every Sunday. But we're feeling our way coming out of COVID, like many organisations. So we're going to go with 2 Sundays in the month. And at the moment, Redbourn are going to be the first and third Sundays. And the idea is that leaves us a couple of weeks either side when we can try out other things and do other things in the community, or have some more invitational things that people can come along to. So the sort of 2 standard-ish, as much as they are when I'm involved, standard services on a Sunday will be at 10:30. But then, so just to watch out on our Facebook page and website for other stuff which will fit into the other things, to give us, because I think, as I say, we've come out thinking we don't want to go back to the sort of, I won't say treadmill, but that just do it because that's what we've always done. We want to think again and think, okay, what do we really want to do? What's a good pace for us to do that we can manage and we won't feel too hurried, or that kind of thing. So that's where we are, I think. And so the next services are going to be on the 6th of June and then the 20th of June. So that's the sort of first and third pattern, but there may be other things slotted in between there. So that's where we are. Yeah.
Lovely, Stuart. Thank you very much. Well, that was wonderful, and it's great to have you on, especially so soon after a camping trip. And so thank you very much for coming on. We hope to have you on again, perhaps for our last one at the end of the month, but I'll let you know about that separately.
That's fantastic. I'll try and make sure I've got my out of office changed by then. Thanks, Simon.
Yes, you did worry me a little bit. I thought, I wonder whether you're going to be able to do it from a tent, but I'm glad you made it. Thank you, Stuart, so much. Have a lovely day. I'll chat to you soon.
Thank you, Simon. Bye.
Thank you. Now, we've had 2 wonderful people already, and now we've got a 3rd wonderful person who's now just come on video, the known to us all as young Chris Emmel. Good morning, young Chris.
Good morning, young Simon.
Oh, you've got little white things in your ears. You've gone so high tech now, Chris. It's wonderful. Oh, sorry, that wasn't a cue to take them out.
No, I'd forgotten about them. I'd forgotten about them. I've been listening to the radio.
Right, now, of course, as everybody knows, I hope, we have a very, very exciting day coming up on the 3rd of July, God willing. Any news and updates you want to give us about it, Chris? Just give us sort of a top-level view of how things are going and anything we need to know.
Well, you need to know that the 3rd of July is still on.
Good.
And you also need to know that obviously we will be fully COVID compliant, and we will know more on the 14th when there's a briefing, and we'll know more on the 21st when there's a briefing from the government. But we will be using that advice to make sure that we do everything that is appropriate for the village. So but at the moment we're going full steam ahead, and frankly it's really quite life affirming, the number of different organizations that have got involved. We've got, yes, the sports people, because that's what Active in Redbourn's all about, is being healthy and sporty and stuff, and lots of people about living well with air as well are involved, which is also what we're about. We've also got the parish council. We've got 2 of the churches. The High Street have come in and are helping us with the raffle. The guys in the repair shed have made some special equipment for us. We've got some PA equipment from one of the churches. We've got 2 churches, I think, already mentioned involved. So all said, here's a couple for you. The University of the Third Age are going to bring some ukulele. So there'll be an opportunity to learn about, and we're even going to start with the bagpipes. So I'm sure I've missed 1 or 2 people, but I think what I'm giving you is a flavour of the breadth of support, and I'm actually genuinely quite excited about the whole thing.
I mean, it does sound like an extraordinarily eclectic mix of wonderful things, Chris, doesn't it? From bagpipes through to churches, through to Active in Redbourn, through to whatever. It sounds wonderful.
No, I think we've got you know about pandemics. This is a pan party.
Love it. Now, remind us all what time it starts and what to look out for on the day, stuff like that.
Oh, well, on the day we've got trampolines, we've got some special, we've got a karate display. I've mentioned the bagpipes.
Netball. How about the netballers? Are they on?
Sorry.
The netballers, are they still on?
Oh, netballers are still on. Oh, yes.
Fantastic.
No one's dropped out. We've got Pilates as well. Scouts are there. Redbourn in Bloom and the allotments are there. Redbourn Runners and the cricket club. I mean, it's a real good mix of the community.
And you're the overall czar, Chris. How's the if I can use that term,
people lose confidence.
How are you coping with the responsibility? You look very chilled and calm, but I wonder whether deep down you're actually stressed out.
No, not really. I mean, there's one or two loose ends, but I am so far there have been no loose ends that can't be tied up pretty quickly. So I'm reasonably comfortable that it will go smoothly. Not complacent, but comfortable. Good
stuff. Well, Chris, that's all I need to know. Unless you want to tell us any more, 3rd of July, bring it on.
No, I'll be back.
Lovely, Chris. Thanks very much, young Chris. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch up with you later.
Cheers.
And now from 3 wonderful people, we now have a 4th wonderful person. We're so exciting on this show today. We now have our, not ordinarily behind the scenes doing wonderful producing work and IT direction, but today Olive is going to talk to us about dyslexia. Olive, this is a topic that you know a lot about. Over to you.
Yeah, I offered to talk about this because growing up with dyslexia is hard. But these are incredibly talented visual thinkers and learners. And so please stay with me and just listen to some of the positives as well as some of the things that go wrong. And it's easy to teach dyslexics to visually improve their spelling and reading. I learned it 20 years ago, and so I'm going to give you just a minute on each of those topics. But before I start, nationally, there's something like 10% of people are dyslexic, which means that in Redbourn, we have 550 dyslexics.
Really, Olive, before you say anything else, that sounds like an extraordinarily much higher number than I would have thought.
Well, so many people hide it and don't want to talk about it because they see it as being so negative, and it's been an embarrassment all their life.
And is it also the case that maybe some people don't know that they are dyslexic, if you see what I mean?
Probably. I mean, I grew up with undiagnosed dyslexia because simple reason, I'm too old. They didn't diagnose people in my day at school, but I had absolutely all the normal symptoms. When I got to being the age of 16, I think it was, in my school report, there was a sentence that said, if Olive could learn to spell, it would really help. Really? I had been in the same school since I was 4. And so whatever they'd done hadn't worked, but it was now my fault and my mum's fault to what we could do about it. I can remember now, but I expect everybody, lots of people did this, where you're sitting in a classroom and somebody reads one paragraph and then somebody reads the next paragraph. I think it's called pop something or other. I can't remember what it's called. But I used to sit at the back of the class thinking, I want to die or disappear under the floorboards. So please don't call on me, because I would just stumble around all over the place. And it was really embarrassing. And of course, lots of people get bullied about it because other kids in the class know that they're struggling. I could read, which I was really lucky about, but I couldn't remember anything I read. And that is the most boring thing to do. You only read what you have to read. And I missed out on all the kids' literature. And so when my kids came along, I went, what am I going to do about that? I did a maths degree, so I went to university, but I did a maths degree for no other reason that it didn't involve too many words and writing and reading and stuff like that. And I haven't used it since the day I graduated. Apart from the fact it might have taught me to think logically, I don't know. So what I just want to say is I'd like to say about celebrating visual learners and thinkers. At 4 years old, we know children are highly visual. And being visual is part of every process in life. So some basic skills when you're 4 years old, you have to recognize your parents. Yep. How do you do that? You've got a picture in your head of what they look like. Do you ever hear of a child going home with the wrong parent? No, because that would be a safeguarding issue. And the school wouldn't like that one. And you have to find your way around school, and you have to find your way around the house you live in, and where's your bedroom. It's all visual skills, really simple stuff. And as kids grow up a bit, they get some really great stuff. They get creativity, they get massive imagination, they can see different perspectives, which often means that they can argue extremely well. from a different perspective to the one you've got. Great for problem solving, absolutely essential for all the sports and art and seeing the bigger picture. So there's a load of stuff that's really positive about dyslexics. And companies are now beginning to recruit specifically dyslexics, like people like GCHQ and EY, one of the London consultancies, are all looking for people who can think differently, because when you're putting a team together, you need people who don't all think the same. And so that's how it goes. So that's sort of about celebrating it. And then if I just drop back into my experience, at 40, I learned to read aloud to our children. And the reason was that our children were extremely young. And so if you're trying to get a baby to sleep and you read a story and you stumble around, it doesn't really matter. So you lose all that performance anxiety that I'd struggled with for 40 years about reading aloud. At 50, I learned to spell visually, and that dramatically increased my fluency of reading and improved my spelling. But it's not even taught today in schools, however much I've tried to get it incorporated into education. And it's such a simple thing to do in primary school. It hasn't got there. When I found out that other people were visualizing words, so for example, for the audience, if you want to spell the word giraffe, it's really difficult to know how many R's and how many F's unless you can actually visualize the word, which will actually tell you. I was furious that nobody had told me. I really felt like, why didn't somebody tell me about this? And the weird thing was, I have a maths degree. I always visualize numbers. You can't get a maths degree, I don't believe, without visualizing numbers.
Yeah.
So instead of complaining, I did the usual thing that I've been doing all through COVID, going, okay, we can't do what we wanted to do. What are we going to do now? So I walked into St. Luke's 2 days after I learnt the skill of how to visualize words and said, have you got any kids who are struggling with literacy? Because I think I've learnt something. And they said, we've got hundreds. Which ones do you want? I should point out this is 20 years ago. And so I worked with these kids and they taught me what severe dyslexia looked like. Since then, I've taught thousands of people, but I still haven't achieved my ambition of getting it into every school in parallel with phonics or whatever else they're using, especially in primary school. It's extremely easy to teach, especially for those people who are already got good mental images and they're good at creativity, Lego, dance, sport. So the people who've got good mental images already can just put words in their mental images. It's really simple. They can superimpose words on the objects. And it uses a special part of your brain, which is at the back of your brain here, called the word form area, or the brain's letterbox. And when you're born, and as I've got a brand new granddaughter, I've been looking at her, and when you're born, you haven't got any words in this little part of your brain. Yeah. So you've got to start loading them up, and it's a question of how you load them up. So in summary, please tell that anybody who struggles with spelling and reading or dyslexics, that there is an easier way using their strengths of mental imagery to improve their literacy.
And Olive, thank you for that. Where can people find out more about this? If someone's listening and thinks, yes, I want to know more.
They can just contact me. They can contact me through info@activeinredbourn.co.uk. If they know me, they can send me a message via Facebook. Is quite good because I'm quite good at responding to those. Or if they know me, they can phone me up, no problem. I'm very happy to help anybody in Redbourn, because really this is it's just too difficult to grow up with this. And these are very talented kids and adults, and I would like to get to the situation changed and improved.
Olive, thank you very much for that. I hope some people enjoyed that as much as I did and got a lot out of it. Thank you. Now, I think you're also going to tell us a little bit about what's new. Is that right? If there's anything new going on in the village?
I do need to do a share screen for that one.
Okay, hold on. New York and Philadelphia. We're now showing the screen. Okay, I'll move over to you again.
What's new? Redbourn in Bloom, they're doing a great job, and they've repaired the, last week they did a great job repairing the planter out by St Mary's. But this weekend, the 5th of June, is summer plants. So for those people who are dying to put plants in the ground, then please contact hello@redbourninbloom.org.uk or phone Pat Schofield on 793096. Now, I've got a great segue for the next item.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you hear Stuart Dyer say, God's with us even when we are emptying the toilets? What about a synchronicity in that? And this weekend, I started to get involved in the sewage problem in Redbourn, which is particularly east of Redbourn, which is being taken very seriously. And we're looking forward to short-term and long-term solutions. They've been out to help with short-term solutions frequently over the last weekend, but it is a very complex problem, and Thames Water are very keen to ensure they communicate with local residents and work together to resolve the problem, because it affects, I think it only affects east of Redbourn, but it is complicated, but it goes all the way to St Albans.
And all of these, am I right in thinking that it's because something's collapsed, some sort of pipe work or something? What's actually caused the problem? Do we know?
Wait, I'd just like to finish first. I'm personally expecting a visit this morning from one of the field operations managers at 12 o'clock today. And so I'm going to find out, but what we need to do is understand what the problem is, which is we're only seeing symptoms up in Crown Street of the problem, I believe. And so we need to understand the problem. We need to work together to see how we can, how the local residents who see the problem, because it's on their doorstep, can report problems arriving so they get short-term solutions. Meanwhile, Thames Water are trying to solve the long-term solution between here and St Albans. So we're making progress, and as I say, I might report on it next week. Finally, the Redbourn Care Group is now officially the Redbourn Community Group with all the administrative changes. And with the Redbourn Care Group, you may have seen in the newsletter this week, has been selected by Team Hearts Volunteering to be involved in the creation of a video to celebrate Volunteers Week. So that's really, really a pat on the back for the Redbourn Community Group. This week, the 1st to the 7th of June, is Volunteers Week, and it's a time for us to say thanks to everyone, see the newsletter, and a big thanks to all our local volunteers, some of whom are part of the Redbourn Community Group, but there's dozens and dozens of others. And then finally, July the 3rd is Redbourn's Fun Day.
Thank you, Olive. That's great. All sorts of wonderful things going on there, as always. And everybody out there, if you've got anything that you'd like to add to this list, please let us know, and we'll add it into what's new on future weeks. And now we have yet another Redbourn Recommends, which I think is hot off the press. Somebody, I believe, had an experience, as it were, was so enthralled by it, they wanted to share it immediately. So here we go, this week's Redbourn Recommends about the film Cruella. Over to you again to press the play button, Olive.
And this, you may recognise the reviewer. Let me get back to the beginning.
On Redbourn Recommends this week, I would like to recommend a Disney film. Now, the last time that I went to see a Disney film was probably Fantasia, and all the other ones have frankly passed me by. But this week we had a couple of little girls staying with us, and we took them to the cinema to watch it. I was expecting to be bored, and I wasn't. I was completely enthralled. I probably enjoyed it more than they did. It's a remake of 101 Dalmatians. It's completely accessible for young children I think its age is 9+ or something, but actually, as in all Disney films, it's very good for adults too. The soundtrack is brilliant for people of a certain age, which I am, and there's even a couple of car chases. Thoroughly recommended, and it's called Cruella de Vil. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
Wonderful. And isn't it nice that the cinemas are opening up again? Which of course is another wonderful thing that we can all look forward to. I've got my first cinema tickets booked for this Friday evening to see a film, and long may it continue. As we said earlier, if you have your own recommendations, they've been so wonderful throughout the course of the news bites for the last few months. Please send in yours. We'd love to hear them. We'd love to play them to everybody. And that's actually it for today, because amazingly, of course, we no longer have the snatch ups. They're coming back, of course, at the end of the month, but I've got this mental image of the vehicle tottering on the cliff edge. Which way is it going to go? And I suppose we'll all be hanging on in suspense literally for the next few weeks, but there's no snatch ups today. So I'll leave it there by saying have a great week. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe, get your vaccines, enjoy the wonderful weather, enjoy wonderful Redbourn. Goodbye, New York and Philadelphia. Hong Kong have already gone. And we look forward to seeing you all next week. And all particular thanks, of course, to the wonderful Reverend Stuart Dyer for some very interesting thoughts today. Thanks, everybody. Catch you next week. Bye.